Welcome back to the Breakthrough Brand Podcast. This is part 3 in a 3-part series about my maternity leave as a business owner, as a mom of 2, and just taking you guys behind the scenes more of my life in business. And I was totally not sure how these episodes would land with you all, but I've gotten the sweetest messages about how you have enjoyed the last 2 weeks of episodes. So thank you. I'm glad you've listened. I'm glad you've enjoyed them. And I'm literally recording this one the day before it is going to air. I'm a little bit behind on podcast episodes right now. So you guys are going to, I'm recording this in real time basically. So that's how I'm able to say that I know you guys have been enjoying the last 2 weeks. So if you missed those though, go back to 276 and 277 to hear about how I planned my maternity leave with my second baby and then how the maternity leave went. You can listen to those after you listen to this one. And today's episode is all about coming back from maternity leave and what my work plan is like going forward over basically the rest of the year and into the next. Because it's not as simple as both kids being in childcare and me working full-time-ish. It's a bit more complex than that. So I'm basically working just 2 days a week right now to 2.5 days ideally. And we'll be hoping to get to like 3 full days by the end of this year. So anyway, let's get to the details though. In this episode, I'm going to share our experience finding a nanny, what we're doing for childcare for each child, and then our ultimate family schedule hope for the rest of this year. And then also my feelings on wanting more time at home with my kids in this season. So just going to kind of share some vulnerable thoughts with you there as a mom and business owner. So let's get to it. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand Podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple 6-figure a year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple 6-figure a year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Okay, before I get into what the schedule is like as a work from home mom for me, I want to give you a little bit of context if you're new here. So I've had my business 8.5 years, which is crazy. I feel like someone's like, wait, I can't believe it's been that long. And in reality, I've been like freelancing in some sense for more like 9.5 years. And I've been a mom for almost 3 years now. Colin will turn 3 at the beginning of September. And my business has evolved a ton in these 8.5, 9 years since I've been freelancing and owning the business. And today I mainly sell digital products and online courses and host this podcast. So that's kind of like what my business looks like at this point. And ever since Colin was born, almost 3 years ago now, I've worked part-time hours with typically that being 3 days of work a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the last 2 years. And then even less than that during his first year of life. And so I would say as a business owner, even before becoming a mom, but especially since becoming a mom, I've been all about, like when I look at my own business, growing slower, not letting your business take over your life, and not doing random stuff that just wastes time and doesn't move your business forward if you're able to avoid it. And so I've always approached business that way. And I feel like it's worked really well for me. I have not had a season of burnout where I felt like I wanted to throw the whole thing away and burn everything down. I've felt like it's all gone well and grown slowly. And so I often hate when I hear people share vague numbers, but I want to hear because I do feel like it makes sense and adds some helpful context to this episode as I talk about my own schedule. But with my business, the way I've been running it, I'm able to pay myself a multiple 6-figure a year salary. And I'm talking about literally what I pay myself and get to keep working just part-time hours in my business, which I'm, again, so grateful for. And I truly think it's a blessing from God that I'm able to run my business this way. And I also also think it's something that I worked hard on and that doesn't just happen by accident. And I've had this vision the whole time I've had my business. Back in how I said I've not gone through a season where I was working insane hours and burning myself out and offering too many things and saying yes to all the things. It's been more of a grow slow situation, but the growing slow worked. And I also have really, really strong systems in my business. So I think that's part of where the hours can look like less, generally speaking, while still seeing that multiple six-figure salary. So anyway, let's get though to scheduling stuff. So the last 2 years of my life, I have to give you guys context so you can hear how what the big shift is coming back from maternity leave. So literally prior to having a second baby, here's what it looked like. The last 2 years, my oldest son, Colin, like I say, he's about to turn 3, but he has gone to a preschool 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And those 3 days have been my main work days. Like again, for the past 2 years, it's been like, okay, Elizabeth, you want to schedule a meeting? Probably going to be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You want to go to a work event? Probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes I would be able to do a little bit of stuff on Tuesday and Thursday, but generally it's like those have been my 3 main work days. And he would usually be at school from 8:30 to 3:30 or 4 p.m. is kind of like the timing there. So it's not a Mother's Day out, it's an actual preschool, so it's more time. And then on Tuesday, Thursday, Adam and I would split the days. So maybe he's with Colin one day and then I'm with him all day the other day. We've also had plenty of days where it's like both of us are with him together and we're just doing fun stuff together as a family, or even half days where it's like Adam takes the morning, I take the afternoon. And then whoever was working, especially if it was me because I work from home, would kind of be in and out of the family experience as needed. And that worked really well. And I got into a great working rhythm that way, where again, like Tuesday, Thursday were days that like I would get to work some, right? Like, so Thursday was my day to work. I would get to work, but then like I likely would not schedule any meetings to like be available to do stuff as a family, to all eat lunch together, to help out if needed. I also was still breastfeeding a lot of that time, so also taking breaks for that. So anyway, that's kind of what it looked like. And we got into a really good rhythm for the last 2 years doing that. But of course, what works is always changing, especially when you're in a season with little kids. So like literally your work schedule might be based upon how they are napping at that age. Like how many naps is it? Like that literally affects your work schedule. What your spouse's work situation is like, all of these, how you're sleeping at night. Like, is your toddler waking you up? Is your baby waking you up? Are you pregnant and like not and sleeping horrible and having insomnia because of that? Like these things all affect your work. So when Colin though was a baby like Ethan is now, Ethan is close to 5 months as I'm recording this. We kept Colin at home with us the first 14 months of his life. And it was basically me and Adam in that first 14 months, just like taking turns with him. Adam was in graduate school. I won't get into all of it, but like things looked a lot different for us than it does now. I was running my business. Adam was in graduate school. And so we actually, though, with Colin, we tried a nanny once. We tried Mother's Day out and neither really worked well. The times we tried both of those, he was having a lot of separation anxiety. And anyway, eventually though, at 14 months, we did the preschool thing 3 days a week and he's been doing that since and he really loves it and enjoys it. So that's what it all looks like. And I also want to add too, when I think back on like the first 3 years of Colin's life and how we kind of made that schedule work, we also had a lot of family help. So my mother-in-law or mother both came to visit often for days when like I would do a lot of podcast interviews and things like that. So like again, when Colin was under 14 months old, maybe let's say he's 11 months or something. We have no outside childcare besides me and Adam. It might be that my mother-in-law comes for 3 days and on those 3 days, I'm like working hard, doing meetings and things like that. So that's kind of how we were pulling it off. And I'm really grateful for the family help we have. They don't live here locally, but we have family that's like willing to come travel to help us. So now with Ethan, though, after my maternity leave, we knew that we couldn't realistically do all that this go around, like what we did with Colin of just like 14 months of us just like hodgepodging childcare between the two of us. And with family help, we knew that wasn't going to work because one, we have another child to also take care of. And two, Adam's not in graduate school anymore. He is like working as a therapist, he works part-time as well, 3 days a week, and he really gets to create his own schedule. But we knew like, okay, we need a solution for childcare. And we realized that early on when I was pregnant with Ethan. So while I was pregnant, and this is something I would highly recommend you guys, like sit down with your spouse or partner and like look and figure out what makes sense for your childcare situation before you're in it and really needing the help. So we talked about this a lot during pregnancy. We realized that the solution was that we have a nanny. We realized we needed that. And so we actually worked up a family schedule to work towards that included Colin's childcare at preschool, a nanny for Ethan 2 days a week, and then 3 days where one of us was going to be with either both of them or with just Ethan. And we could have enrolled, by the way, Ethan in the same preschool Colin's at, but I really wanted to keep him at home longer than that. Like I like the idea of him having like the individualized care of a nanny and me just being able to pop in and out all day, like while he's with the nanny, which is how it literally looks, which I absolutely love. So anyway, that we kind of worked out that schedule, and it did take some time to make the schedule. Like I remember being pregnant and us like sitting up after Colin would go to sleep, and it felt like a challenging puzzle to solve. And it was like, wait, where does this fit in? What makes sense there? And it wasn't like we eventually arrived through trying to figure out the schedule that like we liked the idea of a nanny. And there were really 2 schedules we made. So we made a right now schedule that's like the right now with a new baby schedule, right? Because like I said, Ethan's almost 5 months. I've only been back from my maternity leave like a month and a half-ish. So it's like that was like the schedule for right now, kind of taking us through maybe the rest of this year. And then we have another schedule for more like when Ethan's an older baby. And then we have an eventual schedule where both of them will be at preschool together those 3 days a week. So anyway, let me explain though how we found our nanny. So we tried care.com, which is a really popular site for finding like nannies, housekeepers, pet sitters, all kinds of things. And we tried that. We actually made the listing at the very end of my pregnancy because we wanted to find someone early, ideally, and like meet with them while I'm still on maternity leave, hire them while I'm still on maternity leave. And then hopefully we'd find someone who'd be willing to wait to really start up those 2 days a week until Ethan was more like 3 months old. And so that felt better for us than being like, OMG, Elizabeth's back to work. We need childcare help. And now we have to do the job listing, interview people, and try to find someone to help us. Like that just did not make sense. So doing it early was really, really smart and helpful, but we didn't have much luck with care.com. Like I interviewed one person from there, but mainly people who replied to the job posting were not like writing me back. Like I would follow up, I'd even get their number and text them, and then just like nothing came of it. And it felt funny to me being on care.com because back when I was a nanny, which if you didn't know, when I started my business, again, like 9 years ago actually is when this would have been, but when I was like kind of starting up my freelancing, I'd quit my 9 to 5, I nannied and house sat and dog sat and taught yoga. And also did freelance design stuff, but I nannied for a whole lot of families. That was definitely like, besides my design work, the biggest source of income that I was bringing in for our family. And I was finding people on care.com. So it felt fun to be on the other side because I still have that care.com profile that was for me to be a nanny. And then now I was making a profile as a job seeker. So anyway, that was kind of a cool little like memory back to that when I was on there doing that. But anyway, we didn't have much luck with care.com. So I decided to like try some Facebook groups while leaving the care.com listing up. And I actually posted in a Facebook group that was for Young Life in Nashville. Adam and I both used to be Young Life leaders, and Adam worked for Young Life for like 5 or 6 years, maybe even more than that. So I posted in there about the listing, and I was connected through that, and I interviewed on her on the phone first, and then she came in person, interviewed, and then we offered her the job. And that's how we found our nanny. And she is truly, truly wonderful, y'all. Like she's such a blessing. She's right now, as I'm recording this, downstairs with Ethan. But it felt like such a blessing to find someone so easily because I only interviewed her and one other person. And that felt like a blessing when I think back on time with Colin, when we tried a nanny with him. We actually tried 2 different nannies, and both of them did not work out for different reasons. So it was like we struggled to find childcare at first with him, and at that point we really needed it. Like when he was like a year old, I was like trying to work more, and I'm like, we really need help, and we were just struggling so much. And so it just felt like such a like God wink of like, hey, here you go. You're going to find this awesome nanny, and it's going to happen really quickly, and she's going to be really flexible to y'all's schedule, all of those things. So without sharing too much personal information about her, because I've not asked her to do that, but she's absolutely lovely. She has prior experience in a daycare setting with newborns. So that felt really cool. She had been in the infant classroom as a lead teacher at a preschool back in her hometown before moving to Nashville. So that felt really perfect. She's also a musician and is super, super talented. She has another part-time job too. So she was happy to do just like the part-time hours with us, which I think that's a hard thing about finding a nanny, right? Like it can be hard to find someone who's, if you're not wanting like 5 days a week, 40 plus hours, it can often be hard to find someone who's just like, yes, I'm interested in just 2 days, because that means they probably need to have another source of income as well. And back when I was a nanny, finding people on care.com, that's how I was. I was not interested in a 40-hour-a-week nanny job because I was also trying to do these other things. I was trying to pursue my business. So she's similar, right? Because she has other things she's pursuing. So she's happy being just part-time with us. And to finish this up, she's just so good with Ethan. So I know he's in great hands with her, and I'm just upstairs working there, right downstairs. I can go down and see them at any time. I can also help her if needed, which she doesn't really need my help much right now. But like early on, the first few times she came, I was having to be more hands-on, teaching her things. And like babies change so much, right? Like she came once, he was still swaddled. And then all of a sudden the next time he's in the Magic Merlin sleep suit. And then, a few weeks later, he's in a sleep sack. Like things are just always changing with babies. But I can also help, like since I'm here, manage his schedule more with her. So we'll text about things like, do we let him wake up at the 45-minute mark or do we extend his nap? How much bottle has he had today? All of that kind of stuff. Something else that's really, again, I'm just so grateful for, but she is a pro laundry folder. And she actually used to do that as a side job in high school, like folding laundry for someone. So she's like really good at folding laundry. So usually on the 2 days she's here, either on one of those days or both of them, I will give her some laundry to fold, and then she'll do that during Ethan's naps when she's not having to hold him. She'll fold some laundry, and laundry feels insane for us right now. Like I'm doing laundry daily. I'm sure you guys with kids understand, even if you don't have kids, laundry can just like take over your life if you don't stay on top of it. But we run laundry daily. So like having help with folding the laundry is huge. And that becomes one less thing I'm having to do every day as a mom, because on the days she's here, she's taking care of it. Also like last week on Monday, she brought me a latte. Like she just showed up with a latte. And I feel like she did not realize how much bringing me coffee is like a true key to my heart. So anyway, she's awesome. She's wonderful. And we are just so grateful for her. So let me share with you though, what our schedule looks like right now with Colin in preschool, and then with Ethan being cared for by our nanny. So like I said, Ethan's almost 5 months old, and this is my work schedule right now to the T, okay? Then there's some variations, right? Like in a week from now, our nanny will only be coming 1 day that week, okay? Like I'm literally only going to have one work day, which is going to probably feel kind of stressful because she has something else she's doing, but things like that happen, right? But this, what I'm about to share, is our goal. So Monday, she comes and she's with Ethan while I work. Colin goes to preschool, usually at like 8:30 until 4:30. That's kind of like how long he's there. And usually Adam is the one who takes him. So Adam will be at work that whole time at his office in Nashville doing counseling. So he takes Colin to school, drops him off, and then Adam goes into work. And usually what she and I have been doing is that she'll come here at like 10 a.m. and then stay until like 5. For a long time, we've been doing the later start. Instead of her coming at like 8 or 9, she comes at more like 10. And so I spend the morning with just me and Ethan. And then also I'm the one that puts him down for his first nap. And again, Colin's already at school and Adam's at work. So it's just me and Ethan in the house. And I'll usually during that time, like spend a lot of time playing with him, but also bring Ethan with me and like do some things like I get ready for the day. I might unload the dishwasher, might prep some things for our nanny so that she has stuff for him when she gets here, but we vary that up. So there have been some days where she's come at more like 8 a.m. because I have a meeting, but generally it's been more like 10 to 5 for her. Okay, now that's Mondays. And Tuesdays are really a hodgepodge day right now. We are trying to get into a rhythm where on Tuesdays and Thursdays, me and Adam take turns more of who's with the kids and who's working. But both kids are home Tuesday and Thursday, okay? And Adam and I take turns working-ish is the goal. So like 2 weeks ago, he went into work for a few hours on a Tuesday morning, and I was solo with the kids all morning. I did a play date with a mom friend of mine and her 2 kids, and then Adam helped more in the afternoon, and I worked some. And then like this past Tuesday, we just all said we're not working that morning, and we went to breakfast in the morning as a family. And then after that, from like 10:30ish on, Adam and I took turns doing some work each the rest of the day, and also taking turns doing things like going to the gym and work out. Like Adam and I both like to usually work out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we like literally just take turns doing that. So that's Tuesdays. And then Wednesdays are the same as Mondays. So our nanny is here, Con is at school, Adam works, and Wednesdays are a late work night for Adam. So I'm solo with both kids on Wednesday nights. And it varies sometimes, right? Like Adam will sometimes get to come home early, but generally speaking, he works pretty late. And it can feel like pure chaos at times, like literally pure chaos, like of trying to do the whole bedtime, bath time, the dinner routine with both of them. It truly can feel like pure chaos, but I'm figuring it out. And I feel like every time it gets easier, like I get more reps in, it gets easier and easier. But that's what Wednesdays are like. So again, you just heard that Mondays and Wednesdays are like the 2 big work days for me. And so on those days, I'm doing things like any meetings I have for work, doing things like recording this podcast. I'm recording this right now on a Monday. I work on my template shop things. I'm working on my new website. Like I'm doing all of those things on Mondays and Wednesdays. Thursdays are like the same as Tuesdays. And I outlined this episode actually last Thursday, recording on Monday now, but I outlined it while Adam was solo with both kids so I could work some. And I worked for like 2 hours straight working on this outline and a few other things. And then we went back to like kind of taking turns. So again, Tuesday and Thursday are just really random right now. And I'm trying to actually get us into more of like family rhythms on those days. That's me and Adam's goal of having a bit more like structure to it versus it just changing so much. But I've also really appreciated the way every week looks different. Like we literally will decide, okay, on this week, we're going to go to breakfast. On this week, we're going to go to the park together. Or this week, Elizabeth is taking work from 8 to 11. Adam's working from 2 to 4, 2 to 5, whatever. Like we are starting to try to plan it a bit more, but right now it still just kind of varies so much. And lastly, Fridays are my solo day with Ethan while Colin is at preschool. So on Fridays, I take Colin to school because Adam works really early. He has a counseling session that starts crazy early. And then it's just me and Ethan having a solo day together. And I have loved it. I'm trying to use Fridays to mainly just focus on time with Ethan and the other things I want to accomplish for our home and then resting some myself. So like some things I'm kind of working on to kind of explain what that could look like. 2 weeks ago, I went shopping with Ethan on Friday because we are actually redesigning our bedroom. And so I went shopping at the mall to get some stuff for the house and pick out some things. I also will often do things like cooking, grocery shopping. I went to Trader Joe's a few weeks ago on Friday, organizing something or working some. So that I think eventually I'll be working a little bit more during some of Ethan's naps on Fridays. But for right now, I'm actually trying to not really work on Fridays on my business because mainly with this sleep regression Ethan is in, which I don't think I mentioned that yet, but he's in a pretty decent sleep regression right now. And he's on 3 to 4 naps a day at this age, but it's holding for a lot of naps. And then being together and playing with Ethan while he's awake or letting him do some independent play while I fold laundry or do dishes or something like that. But with how much he needs help sleeping, interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. It just does not make sense for me to try to work. So like on Friday, last Friday, it's like just a few days ago as I'm recording this, me and Ethan had a full solo day together, and I consciously planned our day and decided I'm not going to work today on my business. And again, that does not mean I didn't check in on my business. I actually posted on Instagram. I responded to some emails. I responded to a team member on Slack. Like I did some things like that, but I did not get out my laptop at all to work on anything. And the reason for that is I was like, okay, he's going to have like 3-ish naps today. We also had a doctor's appointment he was going to, so that was going to take up some time. And the first nap, he slept for 30 minutes, and then I needed to hold him to extend the nap, and I got him to an hour. So that would have been only 30 minutes I could have even worked. Instead, I spent that time doing a quiet time and praying and reading the Bible and journaling, which I think was a much better use of my time than what very little work I could have gotten done in 30 minutes. And then Ethan had his wake window, and then for his second nap, he only got to 45 minutes, and then I held him longer to get him to more like an hour and a half that time. time. And then we, again, had a wait time, played some more. And then he had that doctor's appointment, and his final nap of the day was sleeping on the car ride home and then a little bit past after we got home. So it's like there just wasn't that much nap time. And I feel like that's a common misconception that you have before maybe having kids or having babies, or maybe you forget when you're out of the newborn phase, but that like just because the kid sleeps a certain amount of time every day does not mean that's just free time that you can work as a parent, because a lot of times you might be holding them at the beginning of the nap if you're doing the quote unquote bad sleep skill of putting them down to sleep, which I still do with Ethan a lot, of like just putting him down to sleep. But then they wake up maybe at 30, 40 minutes or even an hour, and you're trying to help them keep sleeping longer. It's like, okay, that's all the time you could have spent working. So anyway, with Colin now, he sleeps very independently, and he has one nap a day, and he'll usually sleep for like 2 to 2.5 hours. And so that is time where it's like, okay, you could count on this being time that you could work or do something else. But again, we have another child now, so we're taking care of him during that time. But just at this younger age, it's like the sleep is as much sleep as it actually is on paper. Like on paper, it looks like more than it actually is in real life, I should say. But anyway, I'm enjoying these solo days with Ethan and like planning mom stuff to do, right? Like I've had days where I've gone on a play date with a friend that day, where we go walk with our babies, doing errands, like I was saying, spending more time reading, focusing on different things I'm trying to accomplish around the house. And I think Fridays for us looking that way is going to look that way for a long time. And again, I'm really looking forward to it. And I like that just one-on-one time with Ethan. And also some Mondays and Wednesdays will look like that for me if our nanny's not able to come that week. And I'm going to actually record a week in the life behind the scenes episode soon to show you like just so for real, like, okay, I'm just taking a random week. Here's what it looks like. So know that's coming soon if you want to hear more about that. So our eventual goal though, like I said, we came up with like a schedule of like, okay, this is the goal for like right now when Ethan is, in this like baby stage. And then we came up with a goal schedule for when we adjust more to life with another kid, for what Tuesday and Thursday will look like. And that goal eventually will be that one of us is working on Tuesday and then the other one's with the kids, and vice versa for Thursday, and doing like full solo days with the kids on each of those days while the other works completely. So, for example, it might be that Tuesday I work all day and then Thursday Adam works all day. And then I'm wanting to keep Fridays solo with just me and Ethan. So that's kind of the goal eventually. But again, we're working towards that in little stints because, we like having all the time together as a family right now, honestly. Like I'd say that's the biggest reason why we haven't fully just adapted to that for Tuesday and Thursday. We really like having the other parent there and kind of doing different things together as a family, because we can do that. And we've worked our work schedules in our life to where that's possible. And so we're like, we want to take advantage of that and enjoy it. So why childcare this way though? I've talked about this stuff many times on this podcast when I've talked about motherhood and business. And I want to say before I say anything about like why this is the schedule we're working towards, why this is our current schedule to begin with, I truly think you should do childcare however makes sense for your family, your desires, your work, your finances, your season of life, all of it. And so I just want to say, just because I do something a certain way does not mean I think it's the only way or even necessarily the best way. I think it's just all individual to your unique family, and what's best for you might be completely different than what's best for our family. And yeah, anyway, I struggle sometimes to talk about this because I worry I'll alienate someone if they do their life differently, because I know this can be a heavy topic, right? Hence things like the mommy wars people talk about, So I truly think stay at home full-time childcare, a mix of both is not what matters most in parenting. It matters like being a present parent and all that kind of stuff more so than like what you do for childcare. So anyway, let me explain now why we want to do childcare the way we want to. So for us, Adam and I have both always not wanted to do full-time childcare for our kids. That was something we talked about and we were on the same page about before I even got pregnant with Colin. And financially though, we both know that it would give us the most quote unquote financial gains if we both just worked full-time in our careers. We could both make more money that way. And it, again, even despite that though, that's something we've always been on the same page about that we wanted for our family, was to both do some stay-at-home parenting in a sense versus full-time childcare. But at the same time with that, both of us knew that we did not want to be full-time stay-at-home parents, but we both wanted to be able to do both, like part-time work, part-time in the like work hours of being like a stay-at-home parent. Does that make sense? I feel like that's kind of confusing. But which again, I know not everyone wants that. And like not everyone can even do that if you do want it. So again, I'm just sharing what works for us and what our desires are. But for me, I've always been drawn towards being a stay-at-home mom, but then love my business so much that I'm like, I would never want to not be a business owner. Like I just love doing both. So it's like for me, finding kind of the balance between the two. And Adam's similar as well. Like he's like, yeah, on like a Tuesday, I'm game to spend all day with the kids. He's an awesome and like really, really involved dad, and he knows how to do all the same stuff I do with them. It's not like where I, as the woman, am like the only one that can do certain things. Like he can do it all too. He's a really involved dad. So anyway, that's been always our family goal. And it's something you have to work at. It doesn't just happen on accident. It's something we talk about and revisit, and have had to revisit a lot having a second kid. Cause like I said, we had a really good working rhythm that got thrown off. And it's a good that got thrown off, right? Like that was the goal, but it's like we have to readapt and redecide and figure things out again. So now I want to talk though about, this kind of relates to it, but about kind of some stuff that's been happening in my heart around motherhood and work. And I've talked to friends about this. I've talked to Adam about it, talked his ear off about it. But anyway, let me just kind of read through my notes and talk to you guys about it now. So like, I have felt very much like God is working in me right now with motherhood and work things. And it is such a process. And this has been going on for me, like feeling like God's really speaking to me about this and working out some things in my life since I would say October of last year is when some things started changing. So almost a year ago now. And I was pregnant at that point with Ethan when I started to really feel like God stirring in me about this stuff. And it is such a process. I've had a few times where I've truly heard God speak to me about mother and work and his desire for my life. And maybe I'll do an episode about that in the future once I'm done processing all of this with God. Because I do think it would be a really cool story to be able to share with you guys. But it has just been really incredible. And I hope I don't sound crazy talking about all this, but it's been really incredible hearing what he's been communicating to me about where he wants to lead me and our family right now. And I could get emotional just talking about it. And I know y'all are like, wait, what is she even talking about? Because it sounds really confusing. I'm being kind of vague because I want to wait till I've worked through it all to really share it. But it all started with, again, this might sound crazy, but with a prophetic word that someone on Showit's team, actually, if y'all didn't know, my templates are on Showit. I'm a Showit website designer, but I was on a trip with Showit last year. And an awesome person on Showit's team actually spoke like this prophetic word over me at an event last year. And I, at the time, felt like it meant one thing, and then have slowly, God has been like, hey, wait, that's actually not what I meant. Well, you thought it meant it first. And I think too, what he thought it meant, the team member at Showit, is not actually what God was trying to speak through him to me. So me realizing what God was trying to tell me, and that kind of happened when Ethan was about 1 month old. I was up for a night feed and literally felt God talk to me of like, hey, what he said, I actually meant this. And since then, I've had other days of just in subtle ways and in really like just, oh my gosh, God, you are right here telling me this, where God has used other people and specific moments in my motherhood to like keep talking to me about this. And again, I might share the story in more detail another time. Let me know if that interests you and I could do a podcast episode about it. But I am, with all that said, with all that super vagueness that I just shared, I am very much in a listening space right now of honestly like trying to be super attentive to God and letting God make my motherhood and work schedule and really be the leader of my business and where it is headed, and trusting him with this season where I feel like I hardly have any time to work. And y'all know, or hopefully you can tell if you're new here, I adore this business. Like it lights me up. I feel called to this business. Like I truly feel like God has me where I'm meant to be, doing things like recording this podcast for free, making my courses, making my templates. Like I love it. I would never quit my business. I know that for a fact. And like I said earlier, I haven't been someone who's been through a season where I've been like so burnt out by it that I want to burn everything down. Like I really just love what I do. But I also do feel like God's been tugging at me to work less and less and less and be with my kids more and more in this little season. And he's been kind of, again, I'm like, feel like I'm about to cry just randomly on a Monday as I record this. But I feel like I have had him just tell me to trust him in that endeavor. Like, I know it doesn't make sense. And even right now, like you're going to see this like cool title for this episode. I'm not sure what my podcast manager will end up coming with for the title exactly. But like, yeah, I'm working 2 days a week, have a successful business with my kids more, but it does feel scary at times and it feels really hard. And it can feel like I get behind on things. Like I'm recording this episode one day before it's going to air. I feel like I have to say no to more things and growing slower. Like I've been working on my new website redesign for like a year now. So it's just like things move slower, but I have just felt God being like, hey, just trust me with it. Just trust me. And maybe God's telling you the same thing in another area of your life and can speak to you through this podcast episode. I totally believe that God works in such crazy ways. But yeah, he's been telling me to just trust him in this endeavor of working less, and trusting with my business and with my motherhood. And, if you listened, I'm making this connection right now, but if you listened to last week's episode where I shared about how my business did financially while I was on maternity leave, y'all, like my business did awesome while I was on maternity leave. That was God being like, Elizabeth, look, you don't have to be in the business all the time people tell you need to be in your business for it to still see growth and for God to still provide for our family through my business. So anyway, I'm currently trying to figure out how to do both well, like how to do both my work well and my motherhood well and in the way that like feels good to me. And again, I know everyone's situation is so different. So you might have a totally different desire for your motherhood and work. And I'm so happy for you in that. I think the most important thing is that you ask the question of like, is this schedule what I actually want? And, we're told that like what you're supposed to do is get childcare for your kids and work 40 hours a week. And actually, even more specifically, work from like 9 to 5, right? But when you explore entrepreneurship versus like a traditional workforce job or even work from home jobs, like when you explore just something different, you're opened up to more opportunities. So I like to really ask the question and continue to re-ask the question of like, what do I want in this season? What makes sense for our family? What do I want? What do my kids need? And how can I be strategic and work hard and effectively in the business while also caring for my health, caring for my marriage, my friendships, my faith, all of that. It's a lot to do. And I'm sure you guys experience that as well, whether you're a mom or not. Life just has so many parts and things to it that we're all trying to do well and show up for well. And it is like a constant reevaluating and changing of things to figure out how to do that well. So on the same note, in a few weeks here on this podcast, you will hear an interview with Neha Roosh, who's the creator of Mother Untitled. And I interviewed her actually prior to recording this episode, but you'll hear this a few weeks after. But we talk about on that episode career pauses and career downshifts and the concept as it applies to being a mom of like taking a downshift in your business, pausing your career completely. And her content has helped me put so much language to my season of business and my season of work that basically like I'm in a more intense career downshift. Like I've been in a career downshift since becoming a mom. And I'm not going to go all the way to a pause, but I completely understand why people would want to. And I appreciate so much of the dialogue over on her Instagram. You can find her at Mother Untitled. Again, stay tuned for that episode. It's going to be awesome. I think it's going to air in like 2 or 3 weeks from when you guys hear this one. But her content is really helpful to me. And like, I guess I've just been exploring like, okay, what does the career downshift even more look like? What does it look like to have some days that do feel like a career pause, right? Like I told you guys on Fridays, I'm trying to not really work. Fridays for me will feel like I'm pausing my career for that day. It's kind of the goal, really just putting on my mom hat, taking off my business owner hat, and focusing on more just one thing at a time. So I hoped all my rambling about this season of motherhood and what God's teaching me resonates with someone. That was like mostly not even in my notes, but more just like thoughts from the heart. But anyway, let me know though if you want that episode about the stuff God's been teaching me about motherhood and work as it applies to like our specific family. Now, let me tell you though, to close out this episode, what I'm working on right now coming back from maternity leave. So my biggest focus is my new website and rebrand. And my team and I have been working at this so hard. So big shout out right now to Stacy, who she's been designing with me on these pages basically as soon as I got back from maternity leave. And now Christy's helping us too now that she's back from her honeymoon. And I'm hoping to be able to actually launch the new website fairly soon, which feels crazy because it is so many pages. It's been over 100 pages that show it we've been redesigning. And it takes a lot of time. Some pages kind of just tell you real quick, I'm going to do a whole episode about this, but kind of the structure we've been doing. But some pages I'm totally redoing from zero. Like I'm not even bringing in what I previously designed on the current site. I'm starting from scratch. I'm getting out a big piece of cardboard and like wireframing the website and then bringing it in to show it and rewriting copy, like all kinds of stuff. And so some pages I'm completely redoing are like my homepage, about page, the podcast page, the resource page, all the different blog pages, my template shop, some of the course sales pages are also being completely redesigned. So it's a ton of work. And those are ones that I'm just like spending hours upon hours on, like reimagining. And then there's some other pages where we are just pulling in and adapting with the new brand. So like literally all the words are staying the same, all the design generally is staying the same, but we're changing out the fonts and colors basically. And those are the ones that mainly Stacy and Christy are helping with. And then on those pages that I've been redoing from scratch, Stacy's been going back in and like making sure everything like looks really solid on, and like double checking some of my advanced tag settings and things like that, and like structure the site so that we can make sure it's as strong as the current site is. So that is what I've been mainly focusing on, basically the website. And then I also just released a new podcast rebrand, which y'all, if you're listening to this live, you might be actually noticing the new podcast art for the first time in the podcast app. The Breakthrough Brand podcast looked a little different today. And I'm actually doing a really cool giveaway over on Instagram where I'm giving away $500 cash to invest in your business. And then also either the option of being a guest on the Breakthrough Brand podcast to share your expertise on whatever it is you do in your business, or you can do a one-on-one business consulting call with me if you don't feel like you want to be a podcast guest. But that giveaway is happening over on Instagram. I'll link to that in the show notes for this episode. So you can go enter it because it will still be going on if you're listening to this close to when it airs. But I've been working on that, right? Like that's been something that happened since I came back from maternity leave with that rebrand being finished up. And then other projects going on in my business right now, recording interviews for this podcast. Like last week, I had a big week of podcast interviews, and the week after this one, I'll have a few more. New add-on template designs. I started on that project about a month ago. That was another one that like pretty quickly I was like, okay, what do I want to focus on coming back from leave? Getting started on those add-on templates was part of it, and I cannot wait to show those to you. And then also sponsorship agreements and partnerships for this podcast. I have 2 sponsors coming on soon that I'm really excited about, and I'm kind of working out those agreements and the contracts and all of that. And then another thing I'm working on is preparing to teach at Spark. Spark is Showit's conference for designers that's coming up at the end of October. Actually, if you want to get a discount on Spark and come join me there, I'm one of the speakers. I'm so excited. It's going to be super, super fun. But you can use the code McCravey100 to get $100 off. I'll also put that information in the show notes. But that's something I got to work on because I have not prepared my presentation. So I got to work on like exactly what I'm talking about, what I want to say, make the slide deck, and all of that's going to be due in like a month from right now, actually. So I'm like, yeah, I really got to get working on that. So for that, even I'm going to have to like really pause on some other things in my business for probably like at least 2 weeks to really work on that on my work days, on the presentation, writing it, all that. And then my new websites, like that's something we started on last year. So it's been over a year in the making at this point. And that's how life is when you're working less hours, right? And when you take a big maternity leave. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on. And then I'm also being really particular right now with the meetings I say yes to, because it can be so easy as a business owner to end up in just meetings all day, whether it's podcast interviews or like a just chit chat, get to know you call, or, you know, a meetings with team members, like whatever it is, you can just end up in meetings all day, a potential discovery call, like so much stuff like that. So if it's possible right now in this season of life for something to be a Loom video where, you know, you record your screen and you're talking to the person and you send it over email, if it's possible for it to be that or like an audio message of sorts or an email, I do that. Like I'm all about like cutting out meetings when possible. So that's been a big focus for me so that I can spend my time doing other things in the business. So that's it, guys. That's all I have for you today in my outline. And I so hoped you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was helpful in some way, or just even interesting to get to see a behind the scenes of like what my business looks like, what my work life is looking like. And I'll have to do an update again, whenever this changes. And also I should add that I did this same type of episode a while back where I shared what it looked like working 3 days a week. I recorded that one when I was pregnant with Ethan and shared kind of what the schedule looked like with Colin. So I will link to that episode too in the show notes if you want to hear kind of what it looked like with just having one child and not a newborn, but more like just a toddler. I will link to that so you can listen to it. And be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode. It's going to be a really awesome interview, Arian, that I recorded last week that I think you guys are going to really love hearing. And if you're listening to this live, go enter that giveaway on Instagram to celebrate the new podcast art. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening to the end, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. I hope you got so much value from this episode. If you're a fellow podcaster or you hope to start a podcast in the near future, then you need to check out my program, Podcast Success Blueprint. This course is truly podcasting from A to Z. I cover all the getting started steps like naming your show, creating intros and outros, cover art design, and all things podcast tech. And that's where most podcast courses stop. But Podcast Success Blueprint is literally just getting started at that point. You'll go on to learn things like how to create successful solo episodes and interview episodes, how to market your podcast and grow your listeners, how to create streamlined systems so that your podcast does not take over your life, how to make real money from your show. Yes, real money from your podcast, one of my absolute favorite modules. And we even dive into things like guesting on other podcasts to grow your business and hiring a team to help you manage your show. Yes, it is beyond the basics, and I'm teaching you everything you need to know to grow a successful show that is the top of funnel marketing strategy for your business. Head to elizabethmccravy.com/PSB, short for Podcast Success Blueprint, to get all the details and join this incredible program. I hope I can help you in this program as you build your podcast and market your business. All right, that's it, friends. I cannot wait to connect with you again next week. Bye for now.